How long? When was the last time we recorded, actually?
I don't know. It's been months, right?
It was, I know we had, in February, we had the snowfall. And then, it was, yeah, on Valentine's
That's
Day.
right. It was snowing a while ago.
snowfall.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was nice.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, well.
But, yeah, it's been, I think it was, I checked, I think it's been February, March, April, May, June.
Didn't realize it was that long.
4 or so months.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Crazy.
Well, let's kick this off.
Sure.
Howdy, and welcome to Voyagers Path, Season 2, Episode 5, and I believe I have that right. I know the seasons, if it was up to me, it would just be Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, but I think they have seasons as far as, like, divided into quarters. But Season 2, Episode 5, I'm your host, Tony Drake, and with me I have Ahmed.
Hi.
I wanted to give a little update to Kevin Wynn. He's been here on multiple occasions. However, he's going to take a little behind-the-scenes approach. So he's here in spirit. We'll say that. And on occasions, he'll be actually behind the camera. But just to give you a little say-so. We are a part of the JPK Broadcasting Network. You can find that down. Most likely there'll be... Oh, actually, a little... There we go. I'm sure that'll give you enough information, but there's a website, there's a YouTube channel. They do Facebook Live, Twitch, things of that nature. Check it out. That's where you can find us, as well as YouTube. So for those of you, since it's been a very long time since we've had an actual episode, I'm going to just do a little bit of a...
Recap?
Well, introduction. Introduction's a better word, I think, as to like a first-time viewer. We're a podcast about helping young teens and adults bridge the gap between the current situation and circumstances that they're in, bridge it between that and a thriving, prosperous life via character building, exercising discipline, cultivating wisdom, and supported by positive mentality, good habits, and a healthy relationship building.
Right.
Boom.
You got it.
So... It's been since, I believe, February. I'm just going to go a little bit down the rabbit hole as to what has been keeping us. It seemed as like one event after another. We tried to record and we just,
something
couldn't.
happened and then again and again.
Right. The last video was about family. You and I talked about family, and we had discussed a little bit about our upbringing, the relationship we've had with our siblings and biological parents. And then that was sometime in February. Snowfall hit Texas pretty hard, which was it was pretty cool. But it also sucked.
Well,
we couldn't hit this. We couldn't record.
True, yeah.
After that mishap, we did go into the studio. We did record a family part 2, but afterwards,
You didn't like it?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I'm not sure if you remember like my exact verbiage, but I was like, it doesn't sit well with me. I felt like I was talking out of my ass the whole time.
Language?
Yes, language, pardon. I'm sorry. I doubt, these are teens and young adults, sure.
Language.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ahmed. So, it in the last like 10 minutes of that episode that we recorded, that I was watching it before I uploaded it, I was like, well, anything other than those last 10 minutes is just BS. Those last 10 minutes, I was like, I said something struck a chord with me. I was like, that's what I should have been talking about the whole time. But we kind of weren't. Not that it was bad. I mean, you did phenomenal.
I always do phenomenal. You were lacking.
I was lacking. But all that saying, so we missed another week there. I'm not sure which came first, but Ahmed got COVID.
I did.
And my grandfather had passed away.
I think it happened close together.
Yeah, it was. I think we got word of grandfather's passing shortly after the snowfall, and then you were like, "Yeah, I'm out with COVID," because we were going to record before we left, and you're like, "Yeah, I can't, out of the game." And it's not my biological grandfather; it's Calvin's dad. In case anyone cared, but Ahmed had COVID for like a long time because he was fasting. He joined in the fast with his family, and so as you would imagine, if you do not give your body the proper nutrients and things that it needs to heal, then it does not heal.
It worked out in the end.
It worked. You're not dead. You're
I'm not.
here.
It's
you
gone.
got vaccinated.
I'm vaccinated. Everything's fine.
And with Calvin, the family is out in San Antonio, so there are a couple of trips out to San Antonio. There was a memorial service that I missed out on. I got to see it like Facebook Live, which is really cool. And then we went out there, him and I. I had to stay home the first time to watch the puppies, but then the final time for the actual funeral, I was a pallbearer, and went there, and that was another week gone. And then after all that dust had settled, we tried 2 separate times, but there was just a small hiccup setting us back. But now we're here. Now we're back. Now we're in the game. Now we're going to be definitely doing a weekly podcast, unless any other
hiccups
by God or nature or above interrupts us.
Control.
Control. Yeah. So this episode, if you haven't listened to the previous one, you should probably go back and do that. It'd give you a little insight as to who Ahmed and I.
Mostly you.
Mostly me. That is true. And it'll just give you a nice little background as to what I would call family and the experiences I had with family, and then the shift. The podcast today, we're mainly going to be talking about my trip out to San Antonio. We have in the works having my mom on and having Calvin on, both discussing the mother-son, father-son relationship. But this one is mainly how I felt like I was truly accepted into my new family, Calvin's family, and the honor of being a pallbearer and that whole, in a sense, ritual. And I say ritual, I mean...
Tradition?
No, well, like ritual in the sense that there are things that people do that, ritual, witchcraft. Ritual is satanic.
There's
and
good rituals.
Yeah,
and
they're
stuff like that.
like a wedding is a ritual, right? A funeral, it's all a ritual. Rituals are habitual things that we do, and there's major significance and symbolism and things of that nature in those rituals. So when I say ritual, depending on how you feel about it, I do not mean like satanic ritual. I just mean
thank you for clarifying.
Like a morning ritual, or a wedding is a ritual. Look it up. That's how that works. I didn't want to catch any flack from that.
Sure.
So, all that in saying, let's kind of dig into it.
Sure, yeah.
I was really, 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 really glad that it happened the way it did. This hiccups after another, because it felt like in my verbiage, the universal powers that be. I don't necessarily subscribe to God, Christianity, but I don't think that there's nothing out there. And so, whatever is out there, I feel that he, she, whomever was having me experience a certain thing before I could actually talk more about family. Because, like I said beforehand, I was just talking about family, and it felt like it was nothing behind it. And so this experience really gave me a good foundation to explain more and actually talk, because you can't talk about something you don't know. Like, you can BS it, you can be a con artist and stuff, but I don't want to be ever, like a standard I have for this podcast, I don't ever want to just
or have like no
BS.
Meaning behind it.
Have no meaning behind it. So just wanted to say that.
I'm glad you feel that way. Personally, I would prefer not having COVID, but if it happens, it happens. I'm glad that I'm still here.
Yeah. It was.
But anyway, go ahead.
So last episode we had mentioned how growing up was, and the little overview as to my life in case this is the first time you're watching this podcast. My parents got divorced at a young age. There's verbal and physical abuse on each side. Physical abuse is more on the father's side. Verbal abuse and neglect and things are on my mom's side. But again, being a kid, you tend to blow things out of perspective.
Right.
Now, I'm just trying to say that both parents were at fault. The authority figures in the household were not perfect individuals. My mom's done a lot better as far as developing into an awesome person. I don't know what Michael's doing. Hell. But eventually I moved in with my biological dad, Michael, and I developed a pretty poor mentality, poor habits, hung around with the wrong crowd, got sexually involved with things and drugs and stuff of that nature, as you do when you want to have fun and be really cool. Oh, yeah.
Video games give you fun.
Well, okay. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, what I thought. Go ahead.
I ended up moving to California after my biological dad got married, and I was there for 8 or so months, and there was some dispute, and kicked out, basically moved back to Texas under Calvin's care. And he's the guy who I now call my dad. I usually refer to him as Dad or Calvin. I'll make a distinction. I'm never going to say father or dad in regards to Michael. It's always bio dad or Michael.
Right.
He helped to mold me into a better individual that you see before you. Or hear before you. Whatever. So that's kind of just a little bit about me.
Quick overview from last time.
A little overview from the last time. And now story time. So Ahmed, if you have any questions, I know we haven't done anything often or as this before, where I'm just telling you a story. So
I'll ask when I can when it comes. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it all started back in the summer. I'm kidding. So we made our trip out to San Antonio, and that's about a 5-hour drive.
Hold up. Sorry, quick question. Where did you go again?
Oh, okay. I see. San Antonio. We went out to San Antonio.
All right, that was my question. Go ahead.
And we've made the trip before down to Christmas, and the first time that I had met my family, there were a couple. I mean, I met my aunts, which I have 4.
On Calvin's end.
Yeah, Calvin's 3 stepsisters and 1 biological sister. Sandy, Samantha, Simone, and Cerilia. And then my Nana, Sarah. So a lot of S's and a lot of S's. They're all start with an S. And it's, when you're growing in a family you got your 2 uncles, you have your 2 grandparents, you got your 2 parents, then 2 siblings, and that's your family. There's no cousins, nothing else. It's like small. But this is my now family. Super huge.
It's big.
It's big. Oh.
Okay.
And the first time I went there, I felt kind of like a stranger, Right. I think that would be pretty.
You never met any of them, right?
Yeah, I had met Sandy.
But
Sandra.
It was just Sandy and Calvin for the most part.
I think she prefers Sandra, not Sandy. Anyway, yeah, it was mainly her that I knew the best. But we ended up sleeping at Samantha's house when we got pretty close and getting to know my younger cousins.
That's good.
Kennedy and Carter, who are amazing people. So I still felt a little like a stranger, and it's just weird. And that's just me growing up the way I did, looking at people a certain way at a distance, being extremely detached from my emotions and relationships that didn't really immediately benefit me.
To be fair, you also joined Calvin's family later on.
Yeah, well, yeah. So what I was saying is, it was kind of like my default when meeting, being in an unknown location with fairly unknown people, feeling uncomfortable. I tend to keep to myself, or follow the person that I know, which would be Calvin, or at this point the younger cousins, because I'm really easy with kids. Kids just are so easy to be around.
They're cool.
Yeah, they're super cool, especially these 2. But anyways, I felt still like a stranger, kind of like didn't belong. Right. And being the only white person in the house is kind of funny too. It's like it's like, oh, this is what it feels like. So I did stay in a separate room, avoiding the adults. That was a pattern, is avoiding kind of the adults and sticking with the kids. And so when we went there in San Antonio, this time around, whenever we first visited the house, just to check up with everyone before the actual funeral the next day, I still defaulted to that. I walked in, and there was still that kind of almost an awkwardness. I think that would be a good word for it. It's awkwardness. And it almost, I went to the same kind of living area that allows you to avoid people, and I was there with the younger cousins. And I mean, I can play the game pretty well. Like, I can pretend, I can act natural. I can act like I'm comfortable, but inside I'm like, you know. So, Sky is this toddler, beautiful kid. I mean, I didn't grow up with. I never, ever like was around babies or toddlers or anything. But she like waddles up to me, and I'm alone. It's just she waddles up to me. She's like this up to my knee, and she just looks up to me, and like tries to grab me, and like does that whole like
pick me up or something.
Yeah. And so like it was almost like natural. I picked her up and started playing with her and holding on her, and she was giggling and laughing, and I was like, that. Without that experience, I don't think I would have been nearly as comfortable, because she was just. I can see why babies and stuff make like men cry and things like that, because it's just my walls just went down immediately after that experience. And
babies don't care if it's awkward.
No, dude, they don't. Well, they don't care at all.
They don't know.
They don't even know what carrying is, you know. And so after that, I started to talk more with Kennedy, Carter, Samantha, the other people who were there. The next day, I felt even more comfortable, but there were even more people there. The day of the funeral, everyone was coming to the house now instead of just a handful of people. So it was like the entire family, neighbors, friends of family, things like that. And I was meeting everybody. And they're all super sweet, all super nice, but it was just a lot of people. And it was just a lot. It was just, overwhelming. Like that's the whole point. It's just overwhelming and just kind of like on edge, like, okay, I hope nothing goes wrong. It's almost like I was waiting for something to go wrong. And everyone turned on me, which I guess there's some, probably analyze that after this podcast. That's probably something there.
I mean, you just stood out. That's it.
Well,
you felt like you did.
I felt like I stood out for sure. And they weren't uncomfortable people. Like, they were nice the whole time. I wasn't nothing against them. It was just me. Like, they didn't rub me the wrong way. It was just me feeling like I don't belong here. Almost like I didn't earn the right to be there just because I was Calvin's son, which is more than enough. It should be, but it just didn't feel like I earned the right to be called family or to even be a pallbearer. You know what a pallbearer is? Because I didn't know what it was. It's the people who walk the...
like hold the casket? Okay.
Right. So that's a huge honor. And I felt like I didn't deserve it, I guess. So we end up driving out there. Excuse me. This Jocko Go carbonated drink. Not a sponsor, not yet. Pretty damn good.
Sure.
Well, not this flavor. I'm not a lime guy.
Nothing beats water, though.
Nothing beats good old H2O, my bro.
So anyway, about
the drive over there was nice. We get there, wasn't too far away. I didn't know this. Like, people like drive like behind it, like this whole, I forget what you call it, but all the cars drive right behind each other with their hazards on.
In a line?
Like, yeah. I don't know what it's called, but you do that, which is really cool. It also got like, it wasn't executed properly. We'll say that.
Oh, I see.
It was not executed properly, but small factor. So we get there, and my grandfather was in the Air Force, so he had a military burial, which military service. So it's kind of like what you see in the movies. Even like with police officers, there's very ceremonial
shooting.
I think there's just 3, but each bullet stood for something, and they said it at the end and everything. But yeah, guns are shot, flag is folded, things like that. So we get there, and I'd never been to a funeral before. Basically, like, I had gone once when I was really young, no recollection. I think it was for my uncle or a friend or something like that. But funerals are not. Gosh dang, I feel like I'm gonna burp again. Pardon me.
Just the drink?
I guess I should stop, huh? Yeah. Very rude of me. One of my friends who listened to the podcast was like, "Yeah, you talked about it burping, and it was really unprofessional." I was like, "Ooh, damn."
It kind of is. In fact, you're doing it right now.
Okay, we're gonna move on from that. So we drive there, and we're all dressed. All the men are dressed in this white polo, khakis, tucked in, and that's what he wore a lot golfing. He was a huge golfer, and I don't have the accomplishments, but there was like a tournament dedicated to him, and there are awards based
So
around.
he was a good golfer.
He was a great golfer, phenomenal. Golfed into his 80s, golfed up until his death. And also I didn't say this, but during the memorial service that I watched through Facebook Live, people just had nothing but good. I mean, obviously, nothing but good stuff to say. You usually don't say bad stuff at a funeral, but
Probably
I
not.
mean, like just the amount of dedication and the level to which that he dedicated his life to help other individuals was just astonishing. So we pull up, and there's kind of this. It's not a gazebo. I don't know what you would call it, but it's a structure. So you got stone pillars 4, and then there's like a metal roof on top, and I don't know what you call it. It's not but you know what I mean.
No, but go on anyway.
Okay, well, just imagine 4
As you
stone
mentioned it,
pillars and a metal roof. And then the back has a wall. It's just another brick wall on the back of it, 2 benches, and then like an altar where you put the casket.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure if altar is the right word, but anyway.
Go on.
So we get there, and they ask. The tone changes pretty quickly. Like I felt that, okay, this is really happening. It's time to honor Calvin Eugene Drake Sr. And ended up getting with the other pallbearers, and the funeral director was telling us what to do. He opens up the what is that called? What car is that called? The one that carries funeral caskets.
The casket, yeah.
And we pull it out and we start shuffling over, drop down the body. It's got the flag on it, and I still wasn't feeling like, I felt like I was honored to do it, but I didn't feel any, like I was like, okay, I'm just going through the motion. And we go and file in basically, and the director is saying something is like, whenever the shots are fired, salute or hand over your heart, and he says a couple other words. And out of nowhere, the shots are fired, and I felt the actual shots. And once that happened, like I instantly stood up straight and hand over the heart, hand behind the back, and like I was like Pledge of Allegiance almost.
Right.
During they don't do that in high school, do they?
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay. But it was just automatic, and we were all wearing a mask, and I was glad because my lips were just quivering like crazy, and I could feel this. It was really intense, and it was overwhelming sense of honor and gratitude, and this particular ritual where you're honoring somebody's life and all that they've done, and there's also levels of mourning to it too. You're sad that they're gone. There's grief, but a funeral is honoring those who have passed and everything that they've done. And I started just tearing up. Each shot, they took a couple shots more, 3 shots, and I forget what they stood for. But after the fact, I was like, okay, I got myself back together, and I don't like people seeing me kind of tear up or anything. So I went all the way back to the wall behind everybody, and then the officers, I think they're officers, or the other military men, walked to each end of the casket and picked up the flag and started the folding ceremony. It was really slow, really timed, really perfectly executed, and that is what killed me. Like, not actually killed me. That is what...
The most powerful
moment, for sure. And I could see Sarah kind of, the shoulders moving, the back. I was only watching her back, but I could imagine, crying a little bit. People were tearing up, people crying. There was a group of small little kids in the corner just circled together, face down, kind of tearing up. And I was just looking around. I was like, this is now my family. And that whole thing was definitely the indoctrination into the family. And that's what my role, I don't know why I'm not sure if he decided or if some other family member decided to allow me to be the pallbearer, but that was definitely the most impactful thing in my life up to this point. I think that's the right way to say that. But yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. Afterwards, like literally 2 minutes afterwards, it started to sprinkle. And I was like, oh, it's kind of... And it stopped. Like, it wasn't rain. It was just like if someone just flicked you with water.
Like, the weather was sprinkling, or there was a sprinkle
No, like
system?
the actual, like, rain. It was rainfall.
Well, that's nice. I thought, like... The sprinklers got on and it just ruined everything, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice ending.
Yeah, and I stood. Have you seen that picture where Putin is standing out there in the rain honoring a soldier or something?
I don't look at pictures of.
Well, it was a thing he did, and it was like, well, these soldiers have gone through so much. The least I could do is stand in the rain for them. I think that was. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but that's basically what I was trying. I saw it was drizzling. Coming down a little bit. So I stood out there and I was like standing at kind of
the least you can do.
Yeah, I was like, all right, awesome. Thank you. In my head, I was like, thank you for letting me do this for you. We head home, and that was like the cornerstone of the whole trip out there. And
you didn't stay a little bit afterwards?
Well, we did. So after the funeral, later in the day, we went back to his house, grandfather's house, Nana's house, and there was a feast, an Olive Garden feast. It's really cool. And we went to the backyard, and I mean, I'm not sure how many people, but really getting to see the actual number of people in the family was massive. And also, it was very nice to see that they're traditional too. And I mean, I say that because they had like the Olive Garden catering thing, and they had the tents up, and it was the female family members serving everyone who came through, the kids, the adults, and it was just like, I mean, that's probably a small thing to a lot of people, but like to me, I'm like, now today's environment is like very traditional.
It's nice.
And I really appreciate like cool to see where we're standing. And it's like no factor, it's just a traditional view, and they're still going to carry that out. And everyone is really freaking sweet. It was awesome. I went to go sit down with my cousins and my dad, the older cousins, which I think I have. There's starts with a Z. Zamar, Braxton, Bryson. Oh, one other kid. Oh, damn it. Sorry, guys. But Bree, also Bree. There's a lot of B's too, like B's and S's. Man, it was hard.
Big family.
It was hard, and so. Sat down and talked with them, and kind of first time actually talking with them and telling them where I came from, and Calvin also telling them what it was like dealing with me beforehand. And one of their girlfriends were there, and I told them that I wanted to be a director, make films in the future. And she talked about short films, and I used to be really into short films. And we ended up, after eating, she took all the people who were in the conversation. We watched short films for the rest of the night, nice. And it was a nice, like I felt like freaking family. And my guard, that's one point I wanted to make up, was in the last episode I'd mentioned something about my guard always being up around Michael in case I needed to defend myself, do something, because the guy, just who he was.
Right.
And with Calvin, there was never a moment where my guard was up. And the family, I think when I said I felt awkward, it was because my guard is up. I think that's a good way to. Wow, unprofessional. It was a good way to. Describe it as my guard was still kind of up. Wow.
Just go on with your story. Don't mind me.
And so, my guard at that point in time, there was no guard up. But of course, like spatial awareness, like making sure no one's going to come in the house with a gun, or like if anything, like a baby falls over and she's bleeding, like that awareness is still
but
up.
Like you're not afraid of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say afraid. I wasn't afraid of them. Well, maybe. Who knows? I'm not a psychic guy. Any hoodles. At the last event of the evening was like reading the will. So everyone except for like the adults, like the parents, went outside. And I was sitting out there with all the cousins and all the family members, and I think actually they were all just cousins at that point. And back to the traditional point of view, usually in a family, it's like a hierarchy. The patriarchy, the king.
Okay.
And when the king dies, his son takes the throne.
Right.
And I'm not trying to trigger anybody. I'm just saying I see the significance, and there is some significance to that
Tradition.
type of, tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And there's it started a certain way, and I think there's a reason for it. So, anyway, Calvin is the oldest son, and he's the only son in the family.
Uh-huh.
And he's the oldest sibling, I believe. He's the oldest sibling.
Mm-hmm.
He's like 70-something. No, I'm kidding. He's like 50. He's like 55. And after he's gone, traditionally the next eldest child of the, me, I'm the next one. I'm the next one up, in charge. And of course, I mean, I'm not in charge of anything. There's nothing really to be in charge of yet.
Uh-huh.
But it's like realizing as I'm sitting there, like, this is now my flock that I'm a part of. And one day I'm going to have to do my best to lead this flock, keeping in check with my cousins, keeping in check with, making sure everyone's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, not having that responsibility before. Like, the only time I felt that way was with my younger brother.
Uh-huh.
There's a time before I treated him really poorly, but then there was a time before I moved into the Calvin that I was like, okay, need to be responsible for my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
Need to protect him. And other than that, I never felt responsible for anybody, even myself. I mean, and so sitting there in that lawn chair, looking out to all the little cousins playing and all the older cousins just doing their thing and talking and thinking, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my family now. And it's weird, I still got my mom and my stepdad. And one day, hopefully one day, my biological siblings. But that's probably not going to be for a good while.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I don't know. But that's still where I'm at, is that I haven't talked to them in 3 years, my siblings. My sister's got a podcast, actually.
Yeah,
my
runs in the
sister's got a
family.
podcast. And I stalked it a little bit. But anyway, any day, looking back and saying what family is, and that's the whole point of the breaking down of relationships, is we wanted to go over the relationship dartboard back in like the first couple of episodes,
Right.
and how to handle certain relationships and defining what family is. And I think there's not really, we gave a definition in the last episode, the one that Calvin pulled up, but still, the whole point is that you have to define it, and you have to define every single relationship, and that's what makes, especially English, so the art of communication. It's called an art for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Is if I'm going around saying this guy's family and your definition and my definition, which they are totally different. I mean,
Right.
probably not totally actually.
It has
you and
some
I
similarities, but
you and I probably have more things in similar than someone else. But if me and a stranger were talking and they say someone's like their family, and this person who's their family is a drug addict, and they've been stealing from them and the resources, they've been depleting the resources and their time, energy, and attention. It's like, that's not, I mean, technically, bloodline,
Right.
technically your family, legally your family. But like in my head and how I work that out now,
it's not real family.
it's not like that's not a person, if they don't even want to get clean, if they don't want the help, and you've helped them and you've done what you can, at this point, legally they're family, but that's it. That's the only. The same thing with Michael, just like Michael. Perfect example. I mean, he's family by law, only for a short while though. Like once I change the name and become adult adopted, that whole process is coming and still happening. But legally, Calvin's got power of attorney over me, or had it. I'm not sure if that's what factors in whenever I'm not a minor anymore. But Michael is family. So. But he's not like Calvin is family.
Right.
There's a difference. It's the same word. It's got different layers, and you got to make sure you communicate that properly, and that's why you have to define it yourself and actually think about who is who and where they belong in your life and what time, energy, and attention you have to give them, basically. So that is the story.
Pretty good story.
Thank you. Aren't I really great? Tell me everything that I did right and nothing that I did wrong, please.
Okay, well, what you did right was...
Okay.
And what you did wrong was, burping, drinking, and digressing. But, no, in all seriousness, it was a nice story. It's always nice to hear about how...
My voice.
It impacted you.
Yeah.
and how much it means to you, which is nice. I think it's always good to see exactly how impactful a lot of these things are and how impactful family can be to a person.
Yeah. There's there are only a few things in my life that I really cared about doing. You know, I mean, before I met Calvin, I did things just to do them, you know?
Yeah.
And there definitely now be things that I wish I did a little differently. But regardless, now, these last 3 years with Calvin, there are still only just a few things that I'm like, if I could go back, I'd always do this. And that funeral, being part of Calvin's life, is number one.
It's really been 3 years.
It's
man.
well, I've been in Texas 3/6/18, so March 6th, 2018.
Time flies.
It sure does, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Got bear hair in my mouth.
That's his dog, by the way.
That's my dog. Yeah, sorry.
Not actual bear.
I didn't wrestle a bear. I wanted to, anyway. Off topic. Anyway, so we still got a good 20 minutes. So I was going to lay out just a couple more things because I wasn't sure
about what.
Well, if you waited, I would get there.
I'm excited. I don't want to.
I wanted to just kind of lay out a couple more aspects. I wasn't sure if we'd get to this point, but I'm glad we did.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to, I mean, I've already told you a little bit. If you haven't listened to the last episode, it gives you a good idea as to my family past. But I was going back and I was listening to those episodes, especially the last one, and I feel I was listening to myself talk, and I love myself immensely, as you should, as anyone should love me. But I felt the verbiage I was using at some point made it feel like and I was also, when I listen to stuff that I make, I have like two perspectives. One is, okay, what's my thought if I never listened to this before? And the other is, my current perspective, and maybe some others, but I was listening to it, and it felt like I was super egotistical, oh, this podcast is my story, it's my life. A timeout.
I don't want to be that guy, but literally a minute ago, you're like, man, I love me so much.
That's the joke. That's the joke. It's part of the character. Okay. But like obviously, you know me well enough. You know I'm joking. I mean, like it. Okay, maybe I won't make those jokes anymore. Maybe I'll just change completely.
You are definitely confident in yourself, but
Very
sometimes
confidence
it does come off
like I'm full of myself.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. Well, thank you. Thank you for slapping me in the face with
your
asked. Opinion, Karen. No. But yeah, so I wanted to. Okay, but actually, seriously, thank you.
No problem. But anyway, you said you were being egotistical.
That was something you could have said after the show, but it's cool. It's fine.
You didn't have to embarrass me in front of all these people.
Yeah. But I was listening to it, and I wanted to just kind of what's that word? What is the word? It's like just
it's your brain, not mine.
You just shift a little bit. There's a word for it that would be really good if I knew it, but I don't.
Diverge?
No, wrong.
Transition?
Anyway, I just wanted to slightly. Damn it! It's like correct. Correct it. Not like overcorrect, but
fix.
Like if you're charting a course and you're on a certain, you go in a certain direction and you've mapped it out. And you just make a slight little shift.
Recenter.
Maybe. Who knows at this point? I don't even know.
It's your head.
I know.
I'm
sorry.
not in your head.
So the whole point I'm trying to get across is that I joke
right
at points.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be an egotistical maniac. At the same time, I'm super confident. But the whole with the last episode, what stuck out was that it felt like the whole podcast is my story, and that like the whole purpose for the show is for me to,
and not
like
for
a biography
to help other people out.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, like, using the family aspect as an example. there are many things that I've encountered, things I've gone through. I mean, not war. Haven't been through really tough stuff, like war. That's pretty tough.
Not yet.
China's looking pretty suspicious. But there's definitely things that I've encountered, and on a large scale, things that I regret, and things that I kind of don't regret, but I should. And there's still development being done on my end. And the reason why I decided to have this podcast was, again, just to do what I can to make an impact, leave a legacy behind.
Right.
And that is, I haven't been to college. I'm a massage therapist. COVID also kind of hurt that a big bit, but I don't have a major degree anywhere. I don't got a doctorate. I haven't cured cancer. I haven't volunteered anywhere. I haven't done.
Well, you can say this is sort of volunteer.
Well,
but not like at a
CASA,
soup
like
kitchen.
a CASA worker. They volunteer to help out,
Right.
like foster care. Like, that's what I meant. But yeah, this is a hobby, volunteering, I guess.
Go on.
Depending on who you're talking to. But I'm 20, about to be 21 in October. I haven't lived a super long life, but the life that I have lived, the experiences that I've been involved in, some of them are good lessons, and some of them give me a background in these types of topics, like family. And the family relationships that I had, and the family relationships that I've, the family relationships that forced me to change my perspective. Those are the things I can talk about. Those are things I feel knowledgeable enough to communicate. So, yes, a lot of this podcast is going to be about me telling people about me, which feels super gross
But
at times. But I also really like talking about me. But
can I add something?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of most podcasts, or if you're a guest speaker or giving a speech, is you're going to be talking about yourself, but you're also going to be talking about the lessons you learned, what you experienced, and how that's good for other people. So maybe, hopefully, they can either avoid the mistakes you made or apply the lessons you learned. Why are you laughing?
I was gonna make a joke saying sorry I didn't listen. I was distracted by myself, but that was just a joke too.
Well, now you said it.
Now I'm actually distracted. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's exactly the point. Actually, I wasn't listening. So can you say that again?
You can watch the episode again.
I'm just kidding. So, yeah, if ever I rub you the wrong way, which I try not to. I try to be aware that out of the the soon-to-be 30 million people, there's going to be a lot of different people with a lot of different views. And I'm going to say some stuff, probably like that, how I really appreciated the traditional viewpoint of with the woman just handing out the food. That's probably going to rub someone the wrong way. Probably. But, that's part of the downfall with the podcast is I can say something and I don't know what you think and I can't correct what you think. Like, I can't explain myself unless you ask me a question. And
you can choose what you listen to. Like, if you listen to the podcast, it's like, oh, well, this person says some stuff that I don't agree with, but the lesson that he said earlier about, say, family or sticking true to the friends that actually matter, I mean, you can still retain that.
Right. Yes. So we got about 10 minutes here, and I wanted to just introduce a couple different concepts that I hadn't before.
Okay.
When I started out the podcast, music was still a huge thing to me. And there are times where, I just listened to a song 5 days straight, nonstop.
I cannot do that.
I can.
It's
every day.
I could love a song and then listen to it over and over, and then I'm like, man, this sucks. I hate it.
Well, I have a Spotify playlist where after I listen to a song for 3 days straight and I can sing it, I know the words almost
you
verbatim.
Memorize the lyrics.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I put this in the repeat playlist. But
anyway,
enough about me. We're going to. I wanted to also have certain music in the background, but due to legalities and stuff, can't happen.
But you'll suggest it.
I'll suggest it. That is what I'll be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I probably will make a playlist of all suggested songs. It probably sounds like a long-term planning move.
Maybe like a song every episode or something.
Well, that's the thing. Like that's the idea. Is every episode gonna end on? I'm gonna suggest a song.
Right.
It has something to do with the podcast,
right.
with the episode at least. So this song, the name is "Last Mile of the Way" by Sam Cooke. Actually, I should also probably do a little like history thing on it, maybe, depending on the song. Don't have a history for you on this one, but Sam Cooke, if you know him, you know him. If you don't, you don't. You're missing out a whole bunch. Got great music. Iconic in the black community for just the type of music, and also just iconic in the music industry.
So why are you suggesting this song?
The reason why I'm suggesting this song, Ahmed, is because that particular song was played on repeat nonstop in the last days or moments. I'm not sure. I think it was like at least the last day. Might have been days, but the last day of my grandfather's life. And the song is literally about going that last mile and looking back and like, GG, it was good. Sorry, that was probably a little not enough honor there, but not trying to joke about that. It is seriously a good song, especially for the type of man that I learned my grandfather to be, and just that song really does do it justice. You know, I don't want to just keep talking about it because I'm going to try and strum the right chord, to explain it, but I don't know how to.
I think you did a good job so
far.
Well,
yeah, I think that was fine, but I'm gonna leave it there. Sometimes there's too much to say, and I do say too much sometimes, and I lose it, so I'm not. Yeah, shut up. I also I came up with a little, I'm not sure if you call it a motto or a mantra, or it's the outro. Bear with me here. And I wrote this one day with the vision in mind that Voyagers Path is going to go beyond just a podcast. Right. It's founded in the podcast, and it's going to start as a podcast, obviously, but it's going to do a lot more in the future. And the way that I would explain it is essentially how you have like the Marine Corps, where you have like, oh, you're a Marine, and when you say you're a Marine, the person has a good idea as to what you mean. They can expect a certain standard from you and a certain lifestyle mindset. And so my dad and I, who's a former Marine, so I'm not just... Anyway, he was like, you should have something, and it should be like, we're Voyagers for Voyagers Path, which is pretty cool. And again, this is years in the making, so I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But...
That's the plan.
I wanted to have a motto for Voyagers. That's the plan. And so that's what I'm going to end it with. Okay. But before we get to that, just also wanted to say we should be on track for making an episode every single week.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, in case anything happens. But that's the plan. And we have my mom coming in most likely next week. I'll talk to you a bit about that after the podcast.
Right.
She's going to come in. She's going to talk about kind of how we are going to talk about while you listen and give your input and whatnot. Talk about our relationship.
Third wheel.
Third wheel. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyway, third wheel.
And then you'll get Calvin in after that?
Right, Calvin's going to come on after that. Both of them are talking about our relationship.
And family. So we're still in the family.
Still in the family. Those are the last two in the family.
And then after that, romance.
Then we'll finally hit romance.
That'll be rough.
Now, there's actually, I'm trying to have a buddy of mine, Carlos, come on before we start romance. He'll be like the liminal thing, the in-between.
Buffer?
Yeah, I guess that's a word. He's in the Navy. He's not a corpsman, but he's a medic in the Navy. I think corpsman is what you call someone who's a Navy medic guy in the Marines. Or anyway, sorry, I don't know enough to be talking about that. So he's going to come on. He'll be in town. And so I wanted to have him on. He's a stud, especially now, and he's squared away. And I'd like to have him on talking just a bit about direction of life, self-discipline, things like that. And it's not, not nothing formal, but just have my friend on talking about him. and talking with him about certain aspects of life. So
Mm-hmm.
expect that. And then we'll hit romance just a little bit. We'll have a panel. We're trying to have a couple individuals, everyone who has romantic history, and we're just going to start digging into that part of the relationship circle. So without further ado, I'm going to say the motto.
Go for
the
it.
outro. That's like is it like a cheer? That's not a cheer.
I think
Would it be like, I don't know. What if we like clinked water
I
cups?
can't reach you.
Well, it's in spirit. You gotta like. Anyway.
Take your time.
To future and wealth, good fortune and health, to discipline and sacrifice, to lessons that last for life, to live for honor and for glory, death will come, be extraordinary. And that is the outro.
I like it.
Thank you. I wrote that myself.
Hmm?
You can go ahead and hit that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Expect us frequently, consistently. That's all I got to say. Ahmed,
a lot more. Yeah.
anything you want to?
No, just thank you so much for listening and see you next time.
Farewell. Thank you.